Hello everyone, thanks for attending my talk on AsyncAPI and how to design event-driven architectures. Today I'm going to speak a little bit about what AsyncAPI is and how to build an event-driven architecture, and I'm going to do a demo of it. You'll see soon. My name is Fran Méndez. I am the creator of AsyncAPI. I'm currently working as a Director of Engineering at Postman. You can find me on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and also send me an email if you want. I'm always as responsive as possible. So yeah, feel free to reach me out. So what is AsyncAPI? AsyncAPI started as a specification in the beginning. The purpose was to define and design, document and design event-driven microservices. Then it went well also for Internet of Things API and for streaming APIs in general, right? And pretty much any system based on messages. So I want to make clear that the specification is protocol agnostic. That means that it's not for Kafka, this is not for MQTT, this is not for WebSockets, it's for any kind of protocol. So actually it has some mechanisms to let you define protocol specific information, whatever protocol you have, even your in-house, built-in-house protocols. We also develop a bunch of tools, really a bunch, to help you out with this, because we think that a specification without tools is just a document, right? A piece of paper if you want. So we want to provide you also with the best tools possible to work with the spec, right? So go to the website asyncapi.com and you'll find out a lot about a lot of tools. Like we have Studio, which is right now in beta, really cool. Generator, which is capable of generating code and documentation, and a bunch more you'll see. As I said before in the beginning, for this talk I didn't want to talk so much, and I preferred that you see a demo of myself. So I'm gonna just jump into a demo, and you'll see how I'm using AsyncAPI to build event-driven architectures. All right. So the demo is about creating a social network, like a very basic social network. Just for reference, I'm going to show you how it will look like, more or less. This is a front end that I already created and looks somehow similar to Twitter. So this is the profile of the logged in user, and these are some publications or some tweets or whatever you want to call it. And just so you know, we have user 1 here. So we're just hard coding the users. And we have user 2 here, which is my friend Lucas. And he can see exactly the same publications as I do. There are only publications from me and him, basically. Cool. So how did we build? Just for the reference before I continue, you can see this is failing. Firefox can't establish a connection to the server. Blah blah blah. Of course, because that's only the front end. There's no backend yet, and that's what we are going to be working on right now. If I click on like, you see that it does nothing on the front end stuff, but it doesn't count. Cool. So let me get back to the diagram. So this is more or less the architecture that we're going to be creating right now. We have the browser already done, the front end already done. So the browser is going to be communicating with a WebSocket server, and the WebSocket server is going to be either replying to the browser with some events. Replying. I don't like to say replying in this context. It's not a reply. It's going to be sending and receiving messages from the browser, and some of them are going to be forwarded to an MQTT broker. For this demo, we're going to be using Mosquito Test Broker. It's easy and it's ready to use. And we have a notifications service here that is going to be listening for a specific kind of event. And whenever it's received, it's going to send a message to Slack. So just so you see it, it is, just so you can see the full picture, is whenever we hit like on one of these buttons, on one of these publications, as an event is sent to the WebSocket server, and it's forwarded to the MQTT broker, which then reaches the notifications service saying that someone has liked a publication. And there's some bit of a logic there. Depending on if you're liking your own publication or others' publication, it might send or not send a message to Slack, a notification to Slack. Cool. So that is it. I think that it's we have the stage set up. So let's get started building our backend. Let's start with the WebSocket server. As you can see, I have the front end here. We're not gonna get into the front end. This is an Next.js app built with React. That's, I would say, a very basic one. And for our database, we have this db.json file. Very rudimentary, but for the purpose of the demo is more than enough. So we have our users here. We have Fran Méndez, Lucas, and all the posts, and that's it. And all the likes. Right now, there are no likes. Cool. And so let's get started. Let's create first of all an AsyncAPI file, or let's create the backend of the server, the WebSocket server. Okay. So let's start with npx create Glee app, and we're gonna call it server, just to make it easier. This is going to create a Glee is one of our frameworks that works with AsyncAPI very well. It's really well integrated with the specification and uses the specification as a config file. So that's it. I don't want to wait a lot for npm to install all the dependencies. Continue on another terminal, just so you can see. We also have to build our notifications service. So notifications service, yes, spelled. Cool. So I'm gonna do these two things in parallel in the meantime. So this one is installing it's creating the server app and installing Glee and all the dependencies, and this one is doing the same for the notifications service. Remember, this is the WebSocket server, this is the notifications service, and they both are going to have an AsyncAPI definition. Yeah, let me check how server is doing. It's gonna take some time. Cool. So next steps are going to be like, once we have our server and our notifications service already created, I mean the basic project, I'm gonna edit the AsyncAPI file that it generates as a demo, let's say. You can see that we have an AsyncAPI file here. We have a bunch of folders and files. We're gonna get into this soon, but we have an AsyncAPI YAML file here. So I'm gonna just demo this, how we can be, sorry, I have to switch to server folder, AsyncAPI, start Studio. Let's use Studio is one of our latest tools to edit AsyncAPI file. It's an editor that works in the browser. Let me check, why is it not working? Okay. Not now. Okay, and it's telling us to convert to the newest version of AsyncAPI. So the latest one is 2.2.0. So I'm gonna convert it, and cool, it's converted. So what is it? So this Studio is our latest editor, as I was saying before, and here we can add AsyncAPI file, and let's just change this. So this is the social network server. This is our server version, doesn't matter here right now, and we're gonna be listening on URL, WebSockets, blah blah blah. We cannot listen on 3000 because we have the front-end server on 3000. So let's just use 3001. And we have another server, which is the Mosquito, the MQTT server. And so I'm going to use this test mosquito.org protocol. And oh, my computer is going really slow and having some problems. I'm gonna give it a second. Ooh, it's having some high load. Recording the screen is not for the browser, I guess. I'm gonna close it here. So the cool thing that I was about to say is that while I was editing on the browser, this was editing our file here. It was connected through the CLI, right? When I run AsyncAPI Start Studio, it was precisely connecting the browser and our file system, so I can edit this file anywhere I prefer. So let's continue here. This will be working fine outside this demo, like I'm recording the screen. So yeah, my computer is about to start flying. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, it's making a lot of noise. So yeah, I was saying that Mosquito is our MQTT server. I'm using test Mosquito. And MQTT has a peculiarity, let's say, and it's required to use the client ID of MQTT. So to connect to Mosquito, we need to provide the client ID. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use AsyncAPI bindings feature, which allow us to provide MQTT specific details. And client ID, and I'm going to use social network server. Whatever, that's fine. Okay, so we now have our servers. Let's have a look at channels. So this is the demo, and we're not interested in this. We're gonna start by the root channel. So since WebSockets don't support multiple channels by default unless you're using socket.io or something like that, my only chance here is that we use the /channel, or we use something like whatever path we prefer. But that means that we will have to be connecting that path whenever we connect. So we're not gonna do this. We're gonna just use / and that's it. And so this is our server. Our server will allow others, the client, the browser, to publish a message to the server. So we're gonna call this operation on or on like this. Okay, and here I'm gonna use the message like or this, and I'm gonna get rid of this for now, and I'll come back soon. And now I'm gonna use or this like, and our like of or this like object message is going to be an object, a JSON object. And yeah, so the properties are going to be type, and I'm gonna explain what it is right now. So type is going to be a string, and description of this string is the type. Since we cannot have multiple channels, we're gonna simulate them over the same wire or over the same channel. So we need to know if this message is going to be a like or a dislike or a dislike, something like that. So it can only possibly have two values, either or dislike. I know it's not strictly correct in English, the term dislike in this context. This will be something like undo like or something like that, or stop liking if you prefer, but let's leave it like this. I think it's easier. And so we have one property, which is type, and we're gonna have another property, which is the rest of the interesting data. So for instance, we're gonna have properties. This data object is gonna contain something like, for instance, what is the post ID that has been liked. So it's a number, an integer actually, and ID of the liked post, like it, unlike it, and who is the user, the ID of the user who like it or dislike it, the post, right? ID of the user who liked it, the post. Okay, so we got something here right now. That will be something that's working. Let me open the studio again. Yeah, it looks like it's fine. I'm not gonna use this editor for now, just to avoid my computer for flying. And I'm just gonna leave this view, which is the documentation view. Sorry. So as you can see, we instantly started seeing, as we were typing, immediate feedback on this place of on the right side of Studio, and it's the documentation. So we are automatically getting the documentation, like with really little effort, right? Just by writing the AsyncAPI file. And the cool thing is that you get examples and all this stuff. But that's not only for documentation, and that's something that's what we're doing here. I'm creating this AsyncAPI file, and I get the documentation, but I'm gonna get a lot of more things. Like, for instance, I'm gonna get the code actually, or a lot of validations in the code. So next thing that I would love to explain here is that what happens when we like or dislike a message, a publication, sorry, a post. If we like a post, the next thing that we want to do on the server is update the count on the database here, and we're gonna reply, not really reply, we're gonna send a message to all the clients subscribed to the WebSocket server, notifying that there has been a change of likes on the likes count some of the posts, right? So all the clients can be notified saying, hey, so there's a update your count, please, on the front end, please update your count so it can be reflected. Of course, that's an example. You should not be doing this on real life, but that's what we're gonna do here. So as I was saying, we're gonna publish a message once we get this or dislike, and this message is going to be I don't know, like count, like updated count, or no, like count updated. Nice. And let me just come here and let me work here better. Like count updated. So the payload of this message is going to be something like, what do we need here? We need the ID of the post that has been updated and the new like count, right? The new total count. So let me just start then. Type object, properties, and I'm gonna just have, not type, sorry, I'm gonna just have, since this is, oh yeah, sorry, this is a WebSocket event, so we need to have a type which is the same as this one, right? And okay, I'm not doing, something is not correct here. Okay, now I see it. Cool. So we have a type field, which is a string, and this is going to be an update of count. And we're gonna have the data, type object, and properties here are going to be something like post ID, type integer, and description is going to be, I don't know, the ID of the post, and total count, which is going to be also an integer, and description is total count of likes for a post, something like this. Okay, cool. So we're writing a lot, as you can see. I think it deserves the effort to do this up front, and we're now saying that whenever the browser sends and we want to compute something here, like the number of likes for a specific post, and then communicate all the browser instances connected to the server that the post has been liked, okay? So they can update. Cool, let me check before we continue. I think that's fine. It should have been updated here. Yes, it's updated here. Cool, so we have our documentation here right now that you can publish this or dislike, and you can subscribe to the count updated message with the following information, and here you have an example. Cool, so we have that. Now once we have once another thing that we're gonna do here is once we have a or dislike, we're gonna also post something. We're gonna send a message to a MQTT topic, right? So we're gonna call this topic post/liked. So here we can follow the MQTT notation, and that's fine, which is the same as AsyncAPI in this case, this is cool. And since we're gonna send, that means that someone can subscribe to this message, right? So that we're gonna use subscribe. That is highly confusing, and we're gonna change this in version 3. So stay tuned. And something that we want to do here is we want to do something like this, and this message needs to be, I don't know, notified the post has been liked, something like that. So we need a message, we need a new message. And the new message, I'm gonna create it here, notify the post has been liked, and the payload is going to look like something like, since we have to specify that post has been liked, at the very least thing that we want to know are the post ID. So we need to know the ID of the post that has been liked and who liked this post. I'm not gonna spend time on the descriptions. You can edit now later. That's fine. Cool, so that will work. Awesome. So it validates correctly, and you can see it here. So people can now subscribe to post liked event because our server is going to send it. So that is here. Cool. Awesome. So one thing before I forget, we have servers. We have two servers, WebSockets and Mosquito, and we need to limit who's going to be, which channels exist where. For instance, this last channel doesn't exist on the Mosquito broker. So we want to limit this to WebSockets, and we say that this channel only exists on the WebSocket server, and we're gonna limit this to Mosquito. Okay, that will be, I will say, most of it. Like, I'm not forgetting anything. If not, we'll find out afterwards. And so yeah, this is more or less the description of the server. So what happens here is that, as you remember, we started putting operation IDs like only and things like this, right? Only this one for now. We have a functions server here. It has an onHello by default because it was coming with the example that was generated. But we're going to rename it to on this to match exactly. It has to match exactly the name that we're giving it here. Okay. So this function is going to be executed every time we receive a message on this specific channel, right? So every time we receive a message on the in the WebSockets channel, the only channel that WebSocket has, we're gonna execute this function. Okay, what is this function going to do? So this function is going to actually do all this stuff. Like, we need to compute the number of likes and or save the likes, let's say, and we need to store it on the database, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Cool. So I'm gonna close this for now, since we're not editing the file in Studio anymore, and I'm gonna install a dependency that is called LowDB. Right, this is a small dependency for working with local databases like this JSON file. And one thing that we're gonna do is, well, I'm gonna start importing it already. I think we don't have to wait for npm to finish again. And LowDB. Okay, so here it is. And yes, so let me check how was this. Yeah. Okay. So I have the documentation right here. You cannot see it, but db JSON. Cool. So we create JSON instance here. Sorry, our JSON database here. And what are we going to do now? So next thing is, first thing that we want to do is we want to read whatever is on the database, just so it's updated. And let's just understand what is inside the data. We have the number of likes there. The number of likes are stored here. See, this is what we're doing right now. And so far it's not a number, so it's an array of objects with user ID and post ID. So we're not gonna store on plain numbers. We're gonna store more information, and we're gonna also open this. Not open, sorry. We're gonna understand what kind of event are we talking about. Is it like or dislike? And another thing that we'll need to know is the ID and user ID. And yeah. Cool. So that is it. I have a few functions prepared here to compute all this stuff. And so let me just also copy this function, this snippet that I have here. So we need to find out if this like already exists in the database before we compute it, and why. So we need this. We need this. If type of event is like and the existing like index in the array is -1, it means that it doesn't exist. We're gonna store the like on the database. If it's not, if it's a dislike and it doesn't exist, sorry, it exists already in the database, we remove it from the database. That's what it's doing. And yeah, and we have to save all the time. That's why you're seeing this. Cool. What's the total count of likes? It looks something like this. So likes, we need to filter every like by those who are about this specific post ID, right? Like we need to count all the likes that are from this specific post. And okay, so let's get into the beauty of this. And we need to, something that we need to know is we're gonna broadcast to all the instances, all the WebSocket instances. We're gonna broadcast that. So we need to that the count has been updated, as we were saying before. So something that we want to do now here is we need to say that this is our event, right? Like the name of our event, and the data is the post ID that we were obtaining here, and along with the post ID we're gonna send the total count that we calculated here, and that will be, I'll say, enough for now. So that makes our WebSocket like our WebSocket server to write on the database. Let's see if it works. So we're gonna start this server npm run dev, and there seems to be a problem with, why is it complaining? Sorry, yeah, I need to update to the latest Glee. Yeah, sorry for that. That needs to be updated on the generator, but it's working. That's the cool thing. Yeah, so it's complaining that Glee is not supporting version 2.2.0. Yeah, indeed, it was created before this version was released, but lately, a few days ago, I updated it to so it supports version 2.2. Okay, so I'm gonna install this dependency, and then we continue. All right, let's check if it works now. npm run dev, and okay, cool. So you can see that we started Glee, it's running in development mode, and it's only using the WebSocket server. Now this can be configured afterwards here. Okay, so we're not gonna use the Mosquito server. Actually, yeah, we're not publishing to Mosquito yet on the code. So we didn't do anything here yet to Mosquito. It's on the AsyncAPI file, but we didn't implement it yet. So that's correct. That's fine. Now, if I go to the front end and refresh, if I start the front end, obviously. Okay, cool. Awesome. So we now have the front end, and let me check. Why isn't it connecting to? Okay, cool. So WebSocket client connected to server, and here we are. Cool. I'm gonna like something just in case, just to see if it works. I'm not gonna like my own post. I'm gonna like the Lucas one, and there is a jump on the front end. I don't know why, but You can see it bumped the number, so that's cool. And let's see what happened. So we received a message from the backend saying likes count updated, post ID 11, total count 1. That is super cool. So it worked. Let me check on Lucas' side. Did it work? Yeah, it did work. Let's also do like here. You can see it here. Cool, perfect. Did it work here? Yes, so it's here. So we have it. It's working. We have a WebSocket server that is storing our information. Now we're missing the last part. We have to communicate to the MQTT broker, and so it can communicate to the notification service and send to Slack. Let's go quickly to that part. I have something here prepared so we don't spend more time. Okay, and I'm gonna explain it now. Let me go straight to here. Okay, so something that we said is whenever we receive a message, a like or a dislike, we gotta also update not only the front end, but we gotta communicate that this event happened. We're gonna do this only on the likes. We're not interested in the dislikes for now. Okay, so only in case this is a like event, we're gonna send a message to post liked channel, which is the post liked topic in MQTT, with a payload of post ID and user ID, and it has to go to the Mosquito server specifically, not to all the servers, just to Mosquito 1. Okay, something that I will. So that part should be done, right? Like we're sending the message. That is done. That is done, but it's not yet completely, because as you can see on the terminal, it doesn't say that it's connecting to Mosquito, and it's because we're not telling this to use Mosquito as well. So I'm gonna update the .m file, and don't know if it caught the update. If not, I'm gonna restart it again. And yeah, cool. So WebSocket is running and it's connected to Mosquito. Perfect. So now it can send the message. Let's see if it's doing what it's saying. I'm gonna like another, I don't know, whatever, this one. Cool. So what happened? From WebSockets, we received this event, which is, it was sent to Mosquito, and it was broadcasted to WebSocket. Cool, perfect. That's all we need. Now, before we continue, let's go to notifications service and see if it's receiving the event or not. One thing that we need to do here before we continue is we need to create the AsyncAPI file for the service. So notifications service. Okay, something that we need to get from here is the Mosquito. So this one is only connecting to Mosquito, nothing about WebSocket. And this is going to be notifications service, a different client ID. I hope this is not too long for MQTT. Let's just make it sorted just in case. And yeah, and what else? Yeah, so we need to subscribe to the post liked. And since we're subscribing, it means that someone can publish to us, to this application. And on post liked is going to be the name of the operation. And for the message, we're not gonna duplicate with what we have already. We're gonna just leverage what we have on the server. You can do this, or you can rely on other sort of registries or GitHub repos for your messages, or for all your specific stuff, all your specific AsyncAPI stuff and definitions. For now, we're gonna just do this. Let me just check that this file is valid. I think it's like this. I hope so. Yeah. Cool, so this file is valid, successfully validated. Awesome. Cool, so we now have this. We have the AsyncAPI file, but we don't have the implementation yet. So whenever we receive a post liked, as we said here, we need to what? We need to send a message to Slack, but always Not really, not always. So something that we want to do here is we want to, let's just get rid of this. We're not going to send any message, just receive. And I'm going to just copy what we have on the other function here to access the database. In real microservices environment, you shouldn't be sharing this database, but this is a demo, so don't trust me so much. And yeah, let's just read the database. And we need to know that you are liking other person post, right? Otherwise, this shouldn't be doing the notification if you like your own post. So I'm gonna just get all the users and posts from the database. I'm gonna get from the event payload that we're receiving on the MQTT broker, the post ID and the user ID, the user who liked the post. And I'm gonna get who's the owner of this post, right? So I'm gonna check from the list of users who's the post owner and who was the user who liked the post. Okay, so if with all this information, all we gotta do right now is we need to check if the post owner ID is exactly the same one as user who liked ID, right? In this case, we're not gonna send any notification. We're gonna say it's great that you like yourself, but I'm not going to send a notification. Of course not. But if you're liking other people's post, okay, so sending message to Slack. Cool. Awesome. So now we need to make a call. For making the call, I'm gonna just install node fetch as a dependency, and in the meantime, I'm gonna just copy and paste the snippet that I have here. Okay, so we need to access process env Slack URL, and we're gonna make a post call to this Slack URL so we can send this kind of information that someone liked your post. Okay, and that is pretty much what we need to do. The only thing missing right now is exactly the Slack URL that's not in the .env file, and we're gonna add it here. Oh, this is not WebSocket, this is Mosquito and URL. Cool, awesome. I'm gonna delete this URL afterwards, so don't try to use it. And npm run dev on the notifications service and see if it works. Module not found. What? LoadDB. Yeah, we didn't install LoadDB here. Yeah, something that we're missing here is importing fetch. But since I don't have any help on the code editor, it is not helping me, saying that this is not being imported. Okay, so fetch is there already. We're gonna call Slack URL. Awesome. Now, if I let me just clear the database, all the likes. I'm gonna remove all the likes. Okay, and that should be before I continue. Yes. Oh, we don't have the WebSocket server running. We're gonna start it. Cool. Connected. Frontend is in place. Notification service is in place. So I hope that works now. Let me just refresh. Awesome. We don't have any likes. And I'm gonna like my own post. And let me check. Yeah. So you see notification service is saying that it's great that you like yourself, but I'm not going to send a notification. Awesome. It's working. And I'm gonna a Lucas blog post. So eventually it will get it to notification service, sending message to Slack. Awesome. Let's check Slack. Awesome. We got a message here. Hey, Lucas, Fran Méndez liked your post. So that was the demo, my friends. Awesome. So I really hope that you liked this demo. It's a pity that that we don't have more time, but I would love to get into more details. Like really, we have lots of things to tell you, and so little time. Just something that we'll love to reinforce in this talk is like we recently this year we joined the Linux Foundation. And so now the project is in a neutral ground, right? And we are growing super fast lately, thanks to Linux Foundation and all the contributors that we have and the users that we have, right? Also, we'd love to clarify that even though this initiative started as a event-driven architectures initiative, and we're still there, right? We want AsyncAPI in the next 5 years or so to become the #1 specification for defining and developing APIs, any kind of APIs. So that means that in the future, you should be able to define REST APIs, GraphQL APIs, gRPC APIs, and event-driven architectures, all with AsyncAPI. Don't get me wrong, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. It's by leveraging existing specifications. So you should be able to combine your OpenAPI file inside AsyncAPI and your GraphQL, AsyncAPI being referenced from your AsyncAPI file, and so on and so on. And that means that you should be able to work with AsyncAPI tooling and with the AsyncAPI document referencing other specs. And with a single process, you should be able to do all your API stuff, right? And just as a shout out for all these companies using AsyncAPI in production, there are a bunch of them. Really, AsyncAPI is getting well tested and being used heavily in production. So give it a try. And last but not least, we're a welcoming initiative and community, so join us, join our Slack workspace or our GitHub, and even though you might not have much experience with APIs or with event-driven architectures, we're a welcoming initiative, and we welcome everyone to join us. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.